Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we're actually getting into a topic of a friend of mine who asked me about a suggestion on watches. He was getting into purchasing a new watch. He wanted something a little nice, above average, but not breaking the bank. So I kind of wanted to bring that into a discussion here. But first I want to address to say that thank you for everybody who has stuck around with the channel. I know that I haven't posted as much in a bit of time, where maybe about once a week, where before I was posting up a lot more. I'm going to try to get back into my regular routine, but nonetheless, I thank you and appreciate you guys for sticking around, and happy holidays to everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed your Christmas. You enjoyed New Year's. If this video comes out after New Year's, it's being recorded before New Year's. And yeah, so let's jump into the topic. So as I said in the beginning, a friend of mine who asked me about some advices on watches, and he knew I kind of knew a little something on watches. And he wanted to get something, and his budget was in that price range of about 300 to 500 on the higher end, but he wanted to kind of stay closer to the 300 range. And in a few, we're going to take a look at some images. I'm going to pull out my tablet and just take a look at some images online of kind of where my mindset was going. But I'll just kind of discuss it at first. And there's some of my watches that I have in front, but just to kind of give a sense of where the mindset was at. So he is the type of person who, and if you relate to this will fit towards you. And I will discuss on if you have a different kind of mindset as well, where you're a little bit more in the know. But for someone who's not so much in the know of watches, and he wasn't really so much in the know of watches, I know that a person like that is not going to be familiar with necessarily the brands in terms of what's considered good and what's considered not on that price range end. Now, obviously, a lot of people know the really big names off the top of the head, but when it comes to, you in that $500 limit, not everyone knows all the names. Now, he was familiar with Seiko, but what's interesting is that a lot of people who, and Seiko is probably my favorite brand, a lot of people who are not familiar with, like, say, the watch culture, and they hear Seiko, they think that it's, not so big of a brand, or is not as prestigious. And it's funny because the first thing he made a joke to me about it was that he was like, when he thinks about Seiko, he thinks of maybe like his dad's old watch, like an old person's watch having a Seiko back in the days. Because a lot of people back in the days always had a Seiko because it was always affordable, but it was also nice too. And what's funny is I actually have my old dad's Mickey Mouse Seiko watch, which back in those days, it was done in a tasteful way that adults could wear. It wasn't like a playful watch. It looked like a regular dress watch, but with Mickey Mouse in the middle with the hands. And I used to have one myself, and I think I lost mine, but I have his. And so my point to that was that, adults, yes, back in the days were wearing Seiko watches. And when I get a chance to get that watch out of a storage location, I will definitely show it on the channel because it's really nice. Now, as far as, like I said, with a lot of people have that interpretation. So my friend had that same interpretation, like, oh, Seiko's blah, blah, either sometimes people have it as either being like an old person's watch, or maybe even, I won't say they necessarily think of it as a cheap watch. They will think of it sometime as more the introduction if you're looking for luxury. But since he's not necessarily in that mindset of luxury, he doesn't view it like a cheap watch, but just in that sense of the old man's watch, the everyday watch. Obviously, these two right here are Seikos, and you can see that the styling is definitely not something old. But at the same time, like I said, that's just a mentality from a brand standpoint. Because keep in mind, a lot of people, when they're purchasing a watch who doesn't know much about a watch or watch culture, their mentality is going to be within that realm of what is the brand image. And so that was a factor. And so what I broke down to him was a couple things. I suggested to him between a couple of brands, Seiko, and I showed him what's known as like a Monster. It's the name of one of Seiko watches. I'm going to bring it up, a picture of it. But and that was going for maybe about the high 300s. It was a dive watch, very just beefy dive watch, something akin to this, not in the look, but in terms of just the beefiness. And This right here is a Seiko, known as a Seiko Sumo. And so a beefy style like this, you know, dive bezel, very chunky. And I suggested that because it is actually a look that I actually liked. That particular one. It was a one called Save the Ocean, if I'm not mistaken, special edition one, and great price range, great for what you're getting. The look would have to kind of grow on you a little bit, but you know, it's one of those things where, as a person who's into watches, advising someone who's not, I know that culturally, and the look of the watch is unique. Culturally, if he's out there, people who know watches will look at it and go, wow, okay, that's a nice watch. As opposed to people who don't know about watches are going to go and say, well, okay, that maybe they'll say, look, it's a nice looking watch, but they also might go, oh, it's a Seiko, or they might, you know, confuse it as something else. And I've had people confuse this for a different brand. I go, oh, it's a Seiko. Then I also brought up Tissot or Tissot, pronounce it how you like. I'm gonna say Tissot. And that's been a very popular brand lately with its PRX. And that is a watch that is, matter of fact, let me bring up a couple of these images on my tablet so that way when I say them, I can point them out to you. Okay, so this right here, and I'm sorry if it doesn't come up as well on the camera. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm not recording in auto, so it's not gonna adapt on its own. So bear with me when it comes to changing things from what you're viewing in front of you versus with the watches versus the tablet. So this is the Tissot PRX, and it's very much, it has a very Gerald Genta Nautilus type of inspiration. I forget the other one at the moment right now. The other one that's like it, they're made from the top brands. I forget what they call it. Both from Patek and from Audemars Piguet, Royal Oak. That's the one. And so it gives that kind of vibe. But these were all the rave in the last like maybe a year and a half, 2 years. Came out decent affordable prices. The automatic going for like $725. Now, granted, this is more pricier than what my friend was looking to pay for, but on the gray market, you can kind of get it for a little over $500. So I suggested that to him. And this was the monster that I was talking about. They call it the monster, but that's the nickname of it. Because back in the days, the dial face looked like teeth. They were all sharp indices. Now they're square, but they used to be sharp indices, so it looked like a mouth. And this right here, at least on Amazon, goes for $329, which is a great price. And that was the one that I like, which was a more brightly colored dial. And then they had one that was a little more expensive. That was a more darker colored dial. But I really like that setup. For this watch right here, like I said, it's beefy, but you know, the branding on that watch, like I said, kind of turned my friend off a little bit. He liked the way the Seiko looked, but you know, the branding, like I said, turned him off a little bit in terms of, like I said, those who are not fully in the know, they're going to view it in that way. Now, as far as, so that was my basic suggestions to him. I suggested a couple of, I think I suggested also a Citizen watch. This is a Citizen right here with Eco Drive. So in case I wanted him to have something that he didn't have to change a battery. I suggested also something called the Citizen Samoya. I might be saying it wrong. And that watch, it was almost like a lower version of the PRX in a way. It was a better cost price, but I think it was close to like $200 you can get it for in the gray market. But and the gray market simply is not from a retail dealer online. And the issue there was, it really wasn't, I mean, he thought it was fine, whatever the case is. But once again, like, you know, and I think I think Citizen is a great brand, especially if you're not in the know of watches. I've had a Citizen for a bit. This was my first Citizen actually, and I really liked it, for the times. And even though when I got later on more into watches, I'm not one of those kind of brand snobs who think, okay, only the certain brands are the better brands. I think Citizen is an amazing brand, and I think they're one of the best when it comes to quartz or battery operated. But with that being said, so I suggested a few of these things to him, and just on a brand standpoint, if someone's looking into getting into having a watch, he's trying to not be a collector, but just wanted a one nice piece that he could wear on a regular, kind of daily basis, going out with friends, family, just that kind of regular thing. Me personally, I suggest to people a couple of things. One, know your budget. If you are going in that kind of $200 budget range, I think that there are a couple of Seikos that you can buy, Seiko 5s, that will be a very nice price and have them almost that diver style form. They're not actually dive watches in the sense like you wouldn't be able to dive super deep with them, but nonetheless, you could swim in a pool with them. They're not official divers, but most people who collect watches are not official divers, so you don't have to worry about that. They have nice dive style, and then some that are like military style, some that are a little bit more dressy, and they're all for a great price. So that to me is nice. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull that up. So I'll point out some of the newer ones, because some of the older Seiko 5s they don't have as good of a movement, and they're kind of no longer, they're just being sold just to kind of get rid of them. But these are the ones you see with that kind of design where it says Seiko and the swivel kind of 5, rather than that, which is the old 5, is the newer ones. So you have GMT watches on the more expensive end, a little bit for, like, say if you wanted 200 and below, but this right here is close to that. And you have this is a field watch right here, very nice, for 226. So you have another, that's a dive watch. And then there's other ones that are, I don't know if it's going to pop up here now, but ones that are a little bit more dressy, but almost similar to that dive element. I'm not seeing it here right now, but generally speaking, that is what I would suggest in terms of if you just kind of like, want to get into some nice, solid quality brand and that kind of price range, and you want something that's automatic and you don't want quartz, because I suggested to him get something that's a little more automatic, because there's something about there's an element of like having a soul in it. It's hard to explain, but it's like, it's something that is very, all these gears, it's like almost like a grandfather clock on your watch. As it ages, that these gears are just working. It's not like replacing a battery. There's an element to it within the watch community where people just feel like it has more of a soul to it. It's more character. And I think everyone should have or own an automatic watch. It doesn't have to be expensive, but I think it's definitely a nice look, a nice feel to own one. This just to give you an idea of it, because this has an open back. You could see how, let me get it moving. So you could, let's see if it will focus. And I'm sorry about the lighting. But you see how the little round at the top right corner area of the watch, it's like spinning back and forth. It's essentially a mini pendulum. And all these gears that kind of work together. It's a very old school kind of way of, your watch being. And this is automatic. Automatic or manual both fall into the category of mechanic, but the difference is automatic. You see this rotor that moves when I shake it, that spins and gives it power. So that way, as long as you're wearing the watch, it will be juiced up. But obviously, if the watch drains out of power, you can just wind it like you saw me do, like that, to get it going. So, and they do have dressier style watches that might go for somewhere around $300, which I think is also a pretty good purchase as well. But that would be my general recommendation. Or you can go with a Citizen if you don't want automatic, and they make really good quartz watches, solar. If someone is to that mentality, like I need a Swiss watch, Tissot is probably one of the best introduction while still carrying a bit of a name to it. And some of their watches don't go for that expensive. They have some automatics that are on the lower end as well. I think there's one called a Dolce, and I think that goes for maybe about 2 and some change or 300. But you're getting the Swiss watch that, if that matters to you, saying Swiss. It is definitely like a push between wanting your design to be a certain way versus the name brand. And like I said, for those who are not familiar with watches at all, sometimes you can appease them a little easier, sometimes not. Because if they don't know about watches, they just want a nice looking watch. And if you tell them, yeah, that's a solid brand in the watch community, and those who know about watches, and it's a good affordable price, they'll go, okay, cool. So I take your word, and they'll wear it. And people will look at their watch and go, not that you're fishing for compliments, it's more about you being put together and having accessories and accessorizing with your look and the way you dress. But nonetheless, people will look at it and at least go, okay, like he's got a decent watch on. Even if they don't know anything about watches, they're gonna say, it looks nice, it looks like he's got a decent watch on. But if you do know about watches a little bit, then sometimes you might go into a realm where you start saying to yourself, I want something that, you fall into that kind of pit of, I want something that I know is going to be known to others. And for that, sometimes you do have to up your budget. Like I said, I'm a fan of Seiko. It's a very well-known brand, but sometimes those who don't know much about watches, but know a little bit, might think, I want something that is even more so known, or they think that Seiko, like I said, is like what a friend said, it was an old person's brand. So in that case, some people, like I said, could go to Tissot, but generally speaking, I would say if you start getting that deep into watches and that becomes where your mindset is, I would definitely start saying at that point, you may want to start upping your budget and going into it a little deeper. Now, this right here is a Tag Heuer Carrera. Now, their F1 line, I think, starts at about maybe, at least on the gray market, $750 to $1,000. And if you just want the name of, a very well-known Swiss brand without completely breaking the bank, you're gonna now hit that $1,000 budget. And I definitely don't mind Tag. They sometimes get a lot of hate, but I actually like them a lot, because if you're ready to go into that realm, I think that they're the one of the most, people are gonna debate this, and you could debate this in the comments, it's fine. I think that for being a known brand, if you're looking for that brand name prestige, they are probably the highest you could get for the lowest price, if that makes sense. And I know other people will say in the watch community things like, oh, you could go for other, smaller, more independent brands, like Christopher Ward and things of that sort, Oris and all these other kind of things, or even Longines, which is a great brand too. And I'm not knocking any of these brands, but realistically, if you ask someone who doesn't know anything about watches, they're not gonna know those brands as much. So when you hear a watch enthusiast or someone who's into the watch community say that, a lot of times they're saying that from a perspective of knowing these differences and feeling like, oh, I don't find that club to be cool, if you want to say it like that, where it's like, because of the information that they have. And it's not saying that they have information that makes the brand bad, but sometimes the way it works with popular opinion is that what's popular, especially what's popular and somewhat affordable, is always rejected by, it's funny how it works, but it always gets rejected by a group when it comes to any collectible hobby. Once someone breaks into a hobby and they get to the first area that is prestigious but somewhat attainable, a lot of people will hate on that area more than even the more affordable ones, because they're like, when it comes to kind of showboating, I want to show that I can afford more, but I don't want to break into the area that other people can start touching as well, because then it makes me feel like I'm common with everyone else. It's just something that happens across the board. It happens with cars. It happens with a lot of things. I've seen it before. People do it comparing, like, say, BMW to, like, say, American Muscle. I'm like, oh, this is better. And it's like, because they feel like it's a little less attainable than, say, like, now American Muscle is going up in price, but where it was like less attainable, but yet it wasn't over the top where you're spending $100,000, but maybe you spent like 50 or 60 grand, and you're like, yeah, that's better than your 35 grand car. because you can't attain this. But yet at the same time, it's like, it wasn't really better performance wise that really much, but it was just something to say because it was like, you can't attain it. So, and that goes across, I'm just using an example, that goes across any kind of brand, any kind of merchandise, any kind of whatever. So that's the reason why this kind of sometimes gets a lot of hate tag. But I actually think that, like I said, for those who are less in the watch community, if I ask a person, and you know a person who, you know, is a friend or family or something like that, and you ask them, do you know of this brand? They're going to know of that brand. Yet it's still more affordable than, say, something like Omega or Rolex, whatever the case is, but it gives you some brand prestige. So that's when you start going into that realm. So this is really just a video just to kind of inform you guys on just like going about shopping. I didn't go into a bunch of detail, but like I said, this was a topic that a friend of mine asked me. And so it really is just kind of, you know, in that kind of affordable range and suggesting things to people. Now, one watch I always suggest to a lot of people too, and I've actually gifted a lot as well, is the Invicta Pro Diver. This watch normally goes for about $85. It's an automatic using a movement called the NH35, I believe, or 36. And essentially what it is it's a Seiko movement. It's a Seiko movement that also goes in the Seiko 5 models that I just showed you, the newer Seiko 5 models with that different design. The only difference is that this is unbranded, so other companies can use it, but so it doesn't have Seiko branding on the movement. So they make their version, which is the same thing, but then the unbranded version, the only difference, it just doesn't have their branding on it. But they sell that outwards to other companies. And so essentially you're getting a very nice movement on it for, like, this is a movement that will go on watches that are $200. You're getting an $85 watch. But if you catch this on sale, like I say on Amazon for Prime Day, or Black Friday or anything like that, Cyber Monday, you can catch this for often like about $55. And I recommend this watch because, one, it's an actual dive watch. So it actually, the crown screws down. So it's not just regular splash resistance. You can go in a pool. You can actually go deep underwater with this. And it even tells you the parameters on it that it's 200 meters. It actually is a dive watch. But then two, the styling of it is very reminiscent of the Rolex Submariner. Now it's kind of polarizing. Maybe that's not your thing. Maybe it is. But the thing about it is, either way, it's still a great watch. Invicta, sometimes the brand gets a lot of hate because it makes a lot of these really big face watches, which I don't mind because some people love really big face watches. They're not really big into watches in general, but that's what they love, really big face watches that just dwarf your entire wrist. And that's cool. But this one version of it, this one, you know, one of their watches is, this model is smaller, more wearable, 40 millimeters of the case size. And for introduction watch, it's just great because it's just a really solid, nice watch, great movement in it, a great way for you to get started. If you're not sure where you want to go with things, this is the perfect starter watch that will really catch all, like, you know, check all the bells and whistles, and it could be your only watch and you stop there, or it could be a watch that holds you down, get used to it, and then later on you go, I want a different watch. I want to upgrade to maybe something that is like $300. But so that's when someone's unsure, I definitely recommend this because it looks nice. It's a great solid watch, great movement in it for a very affordable price. This is probably the most affordable, best watch you could get, in my opinion, for the price, without cutting like so many corners. Just gives you straight value. The movement alone, if you bought it like say on eBay, is like about like $30. So when you catch this on sale for like $50, it's almost like you're paying for the watch for like $20 and the movement was $30. It's a great solid piece. If you're not the type who wants a homage watch that kind of looks like something else, I get it, but it's still a great piece. And Invicta, whether you love or hate the brand, is still known. So for people who aren't really in the watch community like that, people are gonna at least know, okay, he's got a watch that has a brand that I recognize. It's not some cheap Chinese knockoff brand that you don't know what it's called. That is the worst, personally me, to get a brand that is just on eBay that's not even a real name brand. Get something that at least you know what it is. So that is my top suggestion when you're just trying to feel things out. I hope this video was helpful. I know it was a bit of ranting, but like I said, it was just me taking that question that I had from my friend and porting it over to the channel. Like I said, I'm very much a fan of, and I promoted this on the channel before, about just accessorizing. You know, have yourself a pen in your pocket, have yourself a watch, have yourself a wallet. Now, as I've always said before in the past, As men, we don't always have a lot of things we can accessorize with, but having a nice watch is definitely a great thing. And nice watch is relative. I think you have a nice watch for $50. You have a nice watch at $300 or $400. It doesn't really matter. It's still gonna look nice on your wrist. If you're dressed well and you're put together well, it's gonna look nice on your wrist. And that was really the point of this message. So I hope you guys take that with you. If you guys have any questions about watch stuff, I can go deeper into stuff. Just put some comments below. If you guys are looking for a particular watch, or you guys have the same kind of question, I will throw up more suggestions that might fit your style. Just post down into the comments down below and we can get into it. With that being said, you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.